All right, guys, what is up? It's your boy Quarter Color coming back again with another video. Today we are doing an analysis of a photo for a short film that I've been waiting years for. The sequel to Bird. Now, if you have never seen Bird, don't know what it is a wonderful short film directed by Matthew J on Twitter at Matthew J or Dinosaurs, whatever you want to call him. And he just made a real masterpiece with this last film, Bird. Really incredible. It had everything, but it also had nothing at the same time. It really left a lot up for your imagination, a lot up for interpretation, bars. But he really let you do your own, interpret it in your own way. It's so ambiguous and it's so great. But the thing is, no matter what your interpretation is, there's many loose ends at the end of Bird. I won't spoil, obviously, because spoilers are pretty awful. But really quick, before we get into analyzing the photo itself, I want to pull a few clips from our last podcast to give you some inside scoop on what the director himself had to say about the film.
And understand that we don't need a lot of birds in this film, because obviously if he just kept on fighting birds, it wouldn't be like there'd be no ante up. Obviously, He's going to have to fight a cat or a dog or perhaps a human. I don't want to give it away. Yeah, it's in production. We've gotten some of the first scenes down. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I'll go make this announcement now. I am in the film. Comes out. But,
Oh, wow.
Right.
Of course.
yeah, at the end of the day, that's what's coming out. Trailer should be out maybe a few days before the film. Film's release date is 7/15/17. So about 2 weeks away.
So we've got a couple big announcements in our podcast, our little inside scoop with the director there, Matthew J. First big one he said was that it's not just going to be, he's not going to be fighting birds in this film. There's going to be other animals he's going to have to overcome. There's going to be he said perhaps a cat, perhaps a dog, maybe even a human, which interestingly segues into his second point, that he is in fact in the film. Which is, I personally think, is a very ambitious step to put yourself in your own film. And perhaps we see Matt fight Cookie in this film. Which is something else I want to bring up later when I start to get into the analysis of the photo. But if he ends up, if Matt and Cookie end up fighting, well, there's a lot of creative implications to that, and it might add to the story of the film, or not. It would add to the story of the film, and it would give you a lot to have to think about realistically. And then, of course, we got the release date, 7/15/17. So be ready for that. At the time I'm making this video, that's 9 days away. So we're getting real close to Bird 2 here. But yeah, so let's get into the photo. Let's go ahead and take a look. This was tweeted by the Matthew J account a few days ago, and he simply just had the release date, 7/15/17. And I think one important thing to look at with this photo is that he is in the cage, ostensibly. These bars back here would implicate that he is in fact in the cage. So I think we can assume this is fairly early on in the film, because if he's fighting things like cats, dogs, humans, he's not going to be able to do that in his cage, realistically. So I think it's important to note that this is probably an early shot of the film. Perhaps the build-up section where he kind of finds his reason to gain his revenge, because based on Bird 1, there's not much we can say about who it is he wants his revenge on, because there's so many options there. I think another thing I want to point out quickly is that the low res of this photo would imply that it's fairly zoomed in. Like this was a wide shot that got zoomed in pretty heavily, and that leads me to believe there may be other birds in this cage with him, potentially. I don't want to give. Just because I know the director doesn't mean I know what he's thinking, what he wants to do with the film, what even is in the film. I have no idea. But I would just like to say that I think there's a lot left out of this frame intentionally. So maybe not other birds, but there's something in that cage that we're not supposed to see yet. And I find that quite interesting. Now, when you look at the expression on Cookie's face, he seems very, very distressed. Distressed or perhaps determined would be the two words I would use potentially. Either way, you could sway it either way. But the expression on his face, I feel like, is very telling either way. Because if it's distress, this is going to be almost John Wick level of brutal. If I could go there, it's it's gonna be a brutal movie if Cookie's if he gets sent over the edge, because his acting is just, again, it's impeccable, and I could really see him pushing for that Keanu Reeves level, just over the top, brutal, badass guy. You know, I could really see it. If it's determined, I think it might be more of a hero's journey type of thing. You know, he gets his call to action and his reason for fighting, or, you know, he gets all that, and it just is a nice little a nice linear hero's journey story. Now, another thing we can look at here in this photo is the red spot on his cheek. Obviously, that could be just his feathers. But I remember I've met this bird in person. I've met Cookie. And I don't remember it being quite that large. So that could be blood-stained. That could be someone poking him, you know, hitting him in the jaw. And that could be extra blood on his feathers. I'm not sure. But I mean, obviously, there's not a lot to go on this photo. I just kind of wanted to say my piece on it. Please be ready for Bird 2. It's going to be incredible. And that's going to do it for this analysis, boys. Make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and leave a comment down below how you think Bird 2 is going to play out. And I will see you guys in the next video.